Hey guys, Noel here, and it is Thursday, another wrestling day of the week. Back in the day, I used to watch wCw Thunder, TNA Impact. Actually, Impact's on tonight, I'll probably watch that. But we're going to be revisiting some wrestling from the early 2000s, one of the Renaissance periods for professional wrestling, and that is the May 6th episode of Nitro that features the aftermath of Slamboree 2000. This is the subsequent episode to the last Nitro episode we reviewed on the Pro Wrestling and Sports weblog section of the beloved Noel Comics YouTube channel. You know, the last Nitro I really liked because I liked how the characters were kind of introduced. You got to see David Arquette as the unlikely, goofy champion. You saw Diamond Dallas Page as kind of the pseudo Stone Cold Steve Austin version of himself. It's like a kinder, gentler, nicer, more well-rounded Steve Austin, where Steve Austin is kind of like, where's my beer, and blah, 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 you know. Page is kind of like the kind of badass proletarian big brother to David Arquette, with his sidekick Canyon, dealing with his evil turncoat wife Kimberly and the machinations of the New Blood. Plus we get Hardcore Hogan, Terry Bollea, on his tear for justice as he fights against the New Blood combination of the small, agile Billy Kidman and the nightmarishly strong Mike Awesome. So that was a cool storytelling device. And plus you had, like the Rusev it's Rusev Day, it's Miro Day. The Bischoff-Russo synthesis of storytelling, where you had Attitude Era flair with quality faction warfare. You still have that in this episode, but things are starting to veer more into the swerve-heavy direction that Russo is known for, as we see Kimberly pouring a bedpan on Diamond Dallas Page. Yeah, there you go. So WCW was a proponent of urine therapy. Anywho, what am I talking about? Here's the New Blood enemies right here. The Millionaire Club and their chartered bus as they drive in to Nitro ready to fight Injustice. So the first problem I have with this episode, it's not really a problem, because I like this episode of Nitro. It's just not as good as the previous episode, in my opinion, although it does have some really cool stuff going on. They decided to have David Arquette turn heel. And he did such a good job as playing the goofy, unlikely, idiot champion. And now all of a sudden they tried to kind of turn him into like a kind of a badass, not a badass, but like kind of like a more villainous character. And he's not as good at playing that. He's kind of acting like, as an anime video game fan, I kind of see him acting like Orochi, Iori, or the guys from the What's Up commercials from the Budweiser, ads that you saw in the late 90s, early 2000s. Literally, David Arquette's promo is just like, blah, blah. It's like, I don't kind of see where he's going, and even Scott Hudson didn't even see where he was going. But if they were going with kind of like a Riot of Blood, King of Fighters direction, I think that might have been interesting. Like the New Blood seduced him with their dark powers to give him the powers of the Orochi, but that's not what they were doing, But this is the kind of the problem with the David Arquette heel turn. And Bischoff likes to do these kinds of things. Elaborate planning being explained, which is okay. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm just saying there was too much of it. If you watch the previous few Nitros, it was kind of like David Arquette fell ass backwards into this title, and that was the story, and that was what made things interesting. But now Bischoff has got these elaborate explanations, like how he planned out the whole thing. And it just seems a little odd, in my opinion. I think it would have been a better story if David Arquette turned heel by saying, look, I don't trust DDP to protect me. He's getting beaten up by these New Blood guys. These New Blood guys are cool, and I'm going to go hang with them because they can give me the protection I need. And Page is just, getting his ass kicked all the time. So, I'm going to go with the winning team. If you wanted to show David Arquette as kind of, spineless and weak and opportunistic and scared, which would, I think, go more with his character from the previous Nitro, where he was just kind of like, I got to find a way to survive here. I'm going to go with these guys. I thought that would have been much more organic character motivation than Eric Bischoff, laying out some master plan where he was like getting beaten up intentionally and all this other kind of weird stuff. So, but I mean, it wasn't bad. It just seemed kind of odd. I don't think David Arquette plays a heel as well as he plays a babyface. And it also kind of negated some of the charm of like Courtney Cox and Kurt Russell in the previous episode, kind of making fun of David Arquette as this like naive nerd who was somehow the champion of this company, which I thought was actually pretty funny. Other interesting things in this episode. I have a whole list of things that I wrote down here. So let's see where we should start. Okay, so there's a point in this episode where Scott Steiner is running around like a roided up lunatic. Now, I gotta tell you, I met Scott Steiner, and he actually signed my copy of wCw Nitro for the PlayStation. And I gotta tell you, while Scott Steiner comes off as a roided up lunatic on this episode of Nitro, when I met him in person back in 2019, super nice guy, softest handshake I ever had, very accommodating and friendly. Anywho, he's out of his mind in this episode and is like fighting Tank Abbott, which is, I think, a pretty interesting pairing. And Tank Abbott like lays out Scott Steiner at one point with like a shot to the balls, a shot to the liver, a shot to the liver, and a shot to the jaw. And that drops Scott Steiner, obviously, because those are all like the worst possible pressure points to get hidden if you're a fighter. But then like Scott Steiner kind of like takes over the ring, and he has this line where he calls out Tank Abbott, and he's like, "Stop gumming Russo in the back and come out and fight me." So I thought that was really funny because, Tank Abbott doesn't have any teeth, and the idea of him, doing that to Vince Russo is both terrifying and amusing. Good line for Big Papa Pump. But then like Rick Steiner randomly comes out and turns on Scott Steiner, which is some more example of some of the random breakneck speed booking of Vince Russo, which I didn't mind. It is what it is, but it's just kind of, it's like, all right, so you get kind of like a little bit overloaded from all the constant swerves and chaos, which again, I get that's Russo's style of storytelling. It's got its merits, but sometimes you want to catch your breath a little bit. It is what it is. It's not too bad. It is pretty interesting. Mike Awesome is, again, great in this episode. They're in a period of time where Mike Awesome is being booked very well, in my opinion, because Bischoff and Hogan, I think, still have a lot of creative power and influence in the company. So they wanted to protect Mike Awesome because Mike Awesome is like extended family to Hulk Hogan. So Mike Awesome is doing a really good job, is being the new blood muscle and a compliment to Billy Kidman. Billy Kidman's kind of like the Shawn Michaels, and Mike Awesome is kind of like the Kevin Nash dynamic. And plus you throw Tori Wilson in there, who's a surprisingly good heel bad girl. I guess like pretty girls can be bitchy, so it makes sense why like all these like hot valets are like naturally good at playing like heels. Miss Elizabeth, I'm going to get to that when we're talking about valets, has a match against Daphne, who really kind of got to spread her wings a lot in TNA. She tragically passed away about a year ago, which was completely insane. In fact, I actually did not know that Daphne played Sarah Palin. She was so good at playing that Sarah Palin character, I did not put two and two together at the time that she was actually the governor. And I didn't see that until like Instagram, and they were talking about how she had sadly passed away. But Daphne's great. I like Daphne, and Russo has a good line where he's like got Miss Elizabeth held captive, and he's like gonna like try to get her to wrestle when she doesn't want to. And he's like, "Listen, Liz, I've had it up to here with you, so this is what you're gonna do. You're gonna how did Russo put it? You're gonna fight this evil psycho bitch Daphne or something like that." And Daphne's just great at playing. They call her like, I think they called her like an evil townie or something. And as someone who lives in a small town, I get exactly what they're saying. She's evil goth townie or something like that. Daphne's really good at being tatted up and unhinged. And she's really good in the ring and having a kind of enthusiastic participation in Russo's evil plots. So, and Miss Elizabeth did some good, elementary pro wrestling in her match with Daphne, which they actually explained pretty well. They're like, well, she's never wrestled before, but she's clearly been watching, And that made sense because she was the valet of like Macho Man and Lex Luger, who were like really good wrestlers, and Hulk Hogan and stuff like that. So it would make sense that Elizabeth would glean some pro wrestling skills and be able to do like, high collar takedowns and stuff like that, which she was doing in the match. And Liz has great ring psychology. And so she was able to transfer that. There's Kimberly, by the way. So yeah, good stuff. Kimberly, great playing a evil heel, in my opinion. She's like tries to make DDP sign divorce papers mid-match. It's like good comedic touch right there. DDP had a stretcher match with Mike Awesome. That was good. DDP doing that kind of never quit mentality, which I think goes with his character, and then also kind of the relentless, dogged fighting spirit of the working class that they're trying to have sociologically pinned on his character. That's good stuff. So anyway, in this Elizabeth match against Daphne, they have Medusa come out as Russo's trump card. And Medusa is a really good martial artist. So Medusa comes in and starts beating up Miss Elizabeth. But then Molly Holly, a.k.a. Mona, comes out and she starts beating up Medusa. And for like a brief period, this is really cool, you had all of Macho Man's valets, minus Gorgeous George, in like a three-way fight. And it was really kind of this interesting scenario where you had Elizabeth, Mona, and Molly Holly is Mona. You had Elizabeth, Mona, and Medusa fighting each other, and it was really cool because Molly Holly has got great offense, and so does Medusa, and Elizabeth is kind of like slinking around trying to like find a way to protect herself or find a good spot to attack. It was a really good segment, in my opinion, even though the Daphne match with Elizabeth was cut short. It was really cool seeing all the macho valets kind of using their fighting prowess for their own advantage. Rey Mysterio's back as Evil Eminem in futuristic overalls, so that's cool. This time they're yellow, so nice. And you get a really cool dynamic between Hulk Hogan and Kevin Nash. See, when Hogan and Nash were in the NWO and being the evil corporation that was terrorizing WCW and forging a new world order, hence the name New World Order, you had a situation where, like, Sting was, like, the lone Avenger fighting off against this, like, evil order that Hogan and Nash were ruling over. Now, Hogan and Nash are in the reverse situation where they are being subsumed by an evil order and they're having to be the renegades, the kind of the terrorist freedom fighters fighting against overwhelming odds. And it's an interesting dynamic because they're really, really tough, and they obviously have good chemistry together as being kind of bros from the NWO. So, like, Nash is out there calling out people. Nash gets jumped. Hogan runs in to help. And the Filthy Animals, Hot Daddy and the Monkey Puppets, as I like to call them. It was Uncle Jesse's band from Full House. They come out. And Rey Mysterio is a surprisingly good evil heel. He just is hitting people with baseball bats out of nowhere. He's got an interesting look. And Conan is there. Conan's all like jacked up, so he kind of like acts as kind of like the more muscle who's willing to actually try to fight Hogan one-on-one, even though he knows he probably can't win, but he's more physically inclined to be able to do it, as opposed to like Billy Kidman and Rey Mysterio, who really have to use guerrilla tactics to try to beat Hulk. And Hulk is again doing his Terry Bollea hardcore Hogan ass kicker persona, who he's, Hogan can never really get away from his 80s self, even when he's an evil bad guy. He's always kind of got that kind of kooky comic book charm, like, I don't know. He's like, come on, new blood, I'll kick your ass. He's kind of got that, like, kind of It's like he can't not be a superhero or a supervillain, and I love that about Hulk. It's awesome. By the way, there's also a segment in this episode where the New Blood kidnaps Hulk and throws him in the trunk of the car. This is more of good batshit crazy stuff. And then Goldberg's monster truck saves Hulk. So this is, you get a good synthesis of like the Russo 94, 95 WCW, where they had like monster truck warfare. I mean, Six did that too. But you get like the Bischoff enthusiasm for monster trucks, you know, where like Hulk Hogan and the Giant were like fighting each other and morphing into monster trucks. And now you have like Goldberg, the good guy's monster truck, saving Hulk, who had been jumped by the filthy animals, because like it was actually like really well done. Juventud Guerrera like randomly came out of nowhere and started distracting Nash. So Hogan's like chasing after the filthy animals, New Blood guys. Conan like kind of squares up to Hulk, and Hulk's like, okay, I'll fight you. And then like Kidman and Mysterio kind of pincer movement him. David Pinzer, he's the ring announcer. So anyway, but they kind of like hit him from the side, and then they like throw Hulk in a trunk, and Goldberg saves him with his monster truck. It's a good segment. It's a good segment on the show. Hoovie's mic didn't work though, so Hoovie's like at the announce table like rambling incoherently and you can't hear what he's saying. But I guess Juventud Guerrera has a reputation for rambling incoherently, so I guess that makes sense. So yeah, good stuff. But I like the Conan dynamic being the toughest of the kind of weaker New Blood guys trying to challenge Hulk, and then them trying to outsmart Hulk. Because Hulk is, you know, got that unbeatable... Hulk's always got that unbeatable aura, even when he's Hollywood. That's what makes him so intimidating. What else we got here on our list here? I think we've covered much of this. We do have a main event with Sting and Jeff Jarrett. That'll probably be what we wrap up on here. And Jeff Jarrett's good, don't get me wrong, but he's clearly being pushed really, really hard. Now, they compensate for that by having the announcers admit, like, the New Blood machinations of Russo and Bischoff are just doing everything in their power to keep the Chosen One as the champion, which makes sense because, you know, it's not like they're making Jarrett seem like this unbeatable guy, but they're pushing him really, really hard as the champ and this evil mastermind, and it very much has the vibe of like early TNA when it was the same kind of shtick with Jarrett, you know, push him, even though he's basically like an upper mid-card guy who you're booking like an ultimate, you know, villain or something like that, which is also very similar to how Triple H was booked at times in the WWE. It's not a bad thing, it's not a good thing, it's just a notable thing. But the match with Sting, Jarrett can work well. Like Jarrett is very technically sound in the ring, and he has charisma. I just can't deal with the Slapnuts shirt. I mean, it is what it is. I remember when it happened. It's like, who would wear that? Like, who would walk around wearing a tank top that says Slapnuts? I mean, like, what are you doing? Like, the really sad thing about that shirt, too, is that the back of it looks really cool. It's got, like, a silver guitar laying in a bale of hay with, like, NWO spray painted on it. And it really goes with that, like, evil Kid Rock, you know, Jeff Jarrett, WCW Chosen One, you know, wraparound glasses, like, spiked blonde hair, evil badass kind of persona that he had, which was really cool looking. But just the Slapnuts thing, I don't think that's like the worst slogan ever in the history of professional wrestling. Why would you wear a shirt that says that? Anywho, the match with Sting was great. Sting's awesome. Sting never has a bad match, in my opinion. I love Sting. He's my second favorite wrestler of all time, behind Hulk Hogan. He's the only guy who can hang with Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair and be their ultimate challenge and be not a WWF guy. And Sting does a really good match with Jeff Jarrett. And here comes the fun batshit crazy stuff that you know I love. As Sting has Jarrett in the Scorpion Deathlock, and Jarrett's gonna like tap out. Vampiro comes out from under the ring, like literally he pops through the ring, which is an old thing that Sting used to do once in a while. either come from the ceiling or come from the floor. So Vampiro comes out of the floor, drags Sting out of the Scorpion Deathlock into the ring. Some kind of fire extinguisher or crazy smoke shoots up from the hole, and then like Sting comes out covered in blood, and Jeff Jarrett pins him for the win. So apparently Vampiro dragged Sting to some sort of evil underworld that he walks through sinisterly, and that was the only way that this thing could have been beaten. Otherwise, he would have been the heavyweight champion. And then Goldberg runs over he runs over Rick Steiner and Tank Abbott's limo, and that's how we close out this episode of Nitro. So again, great over-the-top, batshit crazy stuff. Oh, I gotta say one more thing. There's a Ric Flair segment I forgot to mention here. So there's the story here where Vince Russo and Ric Flair have like problems with each other, and David Flair was always kind of positioned as like the Shane McMahon of the WCW, you know, which I thought was always kind of odd because WCW beat WWF by not being like WWF. Like, they take their talent and do new and interesting things with them, but they never really copied the stories. They kind of took the format and took it to a new level kind of thing, in my opinion, and I can go further into detail with that in subsequent videos. But, you know, they went through a period kind of where, like, Ric Flair was, like, the good Vince McMahon, or either just a completely insane Vince McMahon when he was, like, president of the company. And then David Flair was, like, his son, who had kind of the Shane McMahon vibe, kind of the privileged kid with the trendy haircut that was kind of soft but could be hard if he needed to. So David Flair turns on Ric Flair, and we have yet another segment where they're mentioning the WWF in a flattering way, which I think was just kind of odd, you know, because like Russo's in there with David Flair, and Russo's like, I'm the father this kid never had, you know, and Ric Flair is like, David, let's not talk about our problems in public. And I was like, what? And then, you know, like, Lex Luger's running around backstage in his roided up Dawson's Creek outfit trying to help Rick, trying to figure out something to do. And then Rick is like, listen, David, hang on one second here. He's like, see this, David? I got a cell phone. Got a cell phone right here. I can call Vince McMahon, and you'll be on Raw next week. And then, like, David Flair, like, runs right over to Rick, like, yeah, I need to get on the good show. Like, what are you doing, guys? Like, I like Nitro better than Raw. I don't know why they're, like, running down their own product in an attempt to kind of get better. So I don't know. But yeah, here's the cell phone right here. So I'm going to call Vince McMahon and wish him a happy retirement as we end this video. On a scale of 1 to 10, I give this episode of Nitro a 35 out of 10. It's good, but not as good as the previous one. And, oh, by the way, here's Ralphus. Here he's back, and he's fighting Terry Funk with cookie sheets. So that's another thing if you want to watch this episode of Nitro. A good time is had by all. You don't have Jericho, but you got Ralphus, and that's almost as good. So until next time, guys, my name is Noel. You take care. Keep watching Nitro, and I will see you in the very near future. Bye-bye.